The courtroom smelled like old wood and desperation. I sat in the front row still wearing my Class A uniform because I wanted the judge, and everyone else, to remember exactly who I was and where I'd been while they were signing my name on papers they had no right to touch. My father, Richard Rivera, was on the stand. He looked smaller than I remembered, shoulders hunched, hands shaking as he gripped the edge of the wooden rail. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s named Harlan, leaned forward. "Mr. Rivera," she said, voice low but cutting through the room like a knife, "you are telling this court under oath that your son, who was deployed to Kandahar province for 14 straight months, somehow found time between firefights and night patrols to sign a power of attorney allowing you to sell his $450,000 Lakehouse? The same Lakehouse his grandmother willed to him alone when he was 19. Dad opened his mouth. Nothing came out at first. Then he tried again. He trusted us. We were just helping the family. His brother needed. Answer yes or no," Judge Harlan snapped. "Did Sergeant Alex Rivera personally sign that document on March 12, 2023? Dad's eyes flicked to me for half a second. Pleading, maybe ashamed, I couldn't tell anymore. Then he looked down at his hands. "No, Your Honor. But we thought." The gavel cracked once, sharp. "You thought," she repeated, letting the words hang. "You thought it was acceptable to forge a deployed service member's signature, while he was risking his life for this country. You thought it was acceptable to liquidate an asset left specifically to him in a probated will, and funnel the proceeds into your other son's failing restaurant dream. You thought wrong." Dad's face went gray. His breathing turned ragged, loud enough that the bailiff stepped closer. He clutched his chest, eyes wide, and then his knees buckled. He didn't fall all the way, just slid down until he was half sitting, half slumped against the witness box, gasping. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Someone yelled for a medic. My brother Jack stood up in the back row like he was going to rush forward, but the bailiff blocked him. I didn't move. I just watched. Part of me felt sick. The bigger part felt something colder, relief, maybe, or the first real breath I'd taken since I came home and found the lake empty. That collapse wasn't the beginning. It was the end of a lie that started the day my plane touched down at Fort Campbell after my third tour. But to understand how we got here, you have to go back further, back to the summer I turned 18, when Nana handed me the keys to the Lakehouse on Willow Lake and said, "This is yours, Alex. Not the family's. Yours. When the world gets too loud, come back here. The water will always listen." Nana was the only steady thing we had growing up. Dad worked construction, drank too much on weekends, and always promised next year things will be better. Mom cleaned houses and tried to keep the peace. Jax was the golden boy, charming, loud. Always had big ideas that never quite worked out. I was the quiet one who joined the army at 19 because I wanted structure, purpose, and a way out. Nana saw that. She put the Lakehouse in a trust just for me. Ironclad will, no loopholes. She died 6 months later. I came home on emergency leave for the funeral, signed the paperwork, and went back to Fort Drum. Every deployment after that I sent money home. Extra checks for Mom's car repairs, Dad's back surgery, Jax's business ideas. I never asked for receipts. I just figured family was family. Before my last tour to Afghanistan in 2022, I sat them all down at the kitchen table, the same table Nana used to make pancakes on, and said it plain. The Lakehouse is off limits. It's in my name, my trust. If anything happens to me over there, it goes to charity, not you guys. But while I'm gone, don't even think about touching it. Promise me. They promised. Dad even hugged me, said he was proud. Mom cried. Jax rolled his eyes but nodded. I left believing them. 14 months later, after sandstorms, mortar rounds, losing 2 guys from my platoon, and more nights staring at stars wondering if I'd make it back, I stepped off the plane in Nashville. My phone had died somewhere over the Atlantic. When I turned it on at baggage claim, there were 37 missed calls from Mom, a dozen texts from Jack saying call us ASAP, and 1 single email from a real estate closing company in Tennessee. Subject: Closing confirmation, Willow Lake property, March 15, 2023. I opened it right there in the terminal. The PDF showed my signature, clean, perfect, exactly how I sign. Except I hadn't signed anything in March 2023. I was in a forward operating base getting my boots welded to my feet with mud and blood. The house was gone. Sold for $452,000 cash. Proceeds wired to an account in Jax's name. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just stood there while people rushed past me, feeling the same hollow I felt the first time an IED went off 50 meters away. I stood frozen in that Nashville airport terminal, the email glowing on my cracked phone screen like it was mocking me. People bumped past with their roller bags and crying kids, but I couldn't move. My duffel bag slipped off my shoulder and hit the floor with a dull thud. $452,000. Cash. Wired to Jax's account 3 days after the closing date. The buyer's name was some LLC. Probably a flipper who didn't even know the house had a history. They'd already started gutting it according to the attached disclosure. New septic dock rebuilt. Main floor opened up for modern flow. My grandmother's knotty pine walls. The screened porch where she taught me to tie flies. The little brass plaque by the back door that read Rivera Haven. 1987-inch, all gone or soon to be. I dialed Mom first. Straight to voicemail. Then Dad. Same. Jax picked up on the second ring. Alex? Thank God. Where are you? Airport, I said, voice flat. Just landed. Silence for 2 beats. Then we need to talk. Come home. Please. I'm coming to the lake first. Don't. It's not there anymore. I know, I said. I got the email. Another pause. We can explain. I hung up. The drive to Willow Lake took 2 hours. I rented the cheapest car at the counter. A beat-up Corolla that smelled like cigarettes, and didn't stop once. Radio off. Windows down. The Tennessee hills rolled by in that golden late afternoon light, the kind Nana used to call God's paintbrush. I kept seeing her face. Lined, kind, eyes sharp even at 87. She'd survived the Depression, raised 3 kids alone after Grandpa died in Korea, and still found time to bake cornbread and tell war stories that weren't cleaned up for children. When she got sick, she refused hospice. I want to go at home, she said. She did. Right there on the sun porch, holding my hand, whispering, keep this place safe, baby. It's the only thing that never leaves you. I pulled onto the gravel road that wound down to the water just as the sun dipped behind the ridge. The first thing I noticed was the for sale sign gone. Then the new gravel driveway, wider, freshly graded. A black pickup with a trailer sat where Dad used to park his old Ford. The house wasn't a house anymore. Just a concrete slab, fresh lumber stacked, blue tarps over half-built walls. A porta-potty stood crooked in the yard. 2 guys in hard hats were measuring something near what used to be the dock. One waved like I was a prospective buyer. I got out. Lex felt like lead. Hey, the taller one called. You the new owner? No, I said. I'm the old one. They exchanged looks. The shorter guy shrugged. Sorry, man. We just do what the contract says. I walked past them to the water's edge. The lake was the same, flat, silver, dragonflies skimming the surface. But the willow tree Nana planted when I was born had been cut down. Stumps still bleeding sap. I knelt, touched the rough bark circle, and for the first time since the email my eyes burned. My phone buzzed. Mom. I answered. Alex, honey, please come to the house. We're all here. I'm at the lake, I said. Or what's left of it. She started crying. We didn't mean for it to go this far. Jax needed help. The restaurant was going under. We thought you'd understand. You're strong. You always have been. Strong enough to have my name forged while I was getting shot at? Silence. Alex. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Don't go anywhere. I hung up and sat on the stump until the sun dropped completely. Mosquitoes started biting. I didn't care. When I finally stood, my uniform blouse was damp with sweat and lake mist. I got back in the car, turned around, and drove the 20 miles to the house I grew up in. The one on Maple Street with the sagging porch and the basketball hoop still crooked from when Jax and I used to fight over who got last shot. They were all waiting on the front steps like a guilty firing squad. Dad in his recliner he'd dragged outside. Mom twisting a dish towel. Jax leaning against the railing with his arms crossed like he was the one who'd been wronged. I killed the engine and stepped out. No one spoke for a long second. Then Dad stood up slow like his back was killing him again. Son, he started. Don't, I said. Just show me the paperwork. All of it. Mom handed me a manila folder she'd been clutching. Inside, the power of attorney with my signature. dated March 12, 2023. A copy of the deed transfer. Closing statement. Wire confirmation to Jax's business account. $410,000 net after fees and Jax's consulting cut. I flipped through it slowly. The signature was mine, down to the little loop on the in Rivera. Except I'd been in a dust-choked firebase that entire week, running convoy security for engineers rebuilding a bridge the Taliban kept blowing up. No notary. No internet half the time. No way in hell I signed anything. I looked up at Dad. Who notarized this? He swallowed. A guy Jax knows. Friend of a friend. Said it was no big deal. Jax shifted. Look, Alex, the restaurant was bleeding money. I had investors pulling out. I needed a lifeline. You weren't here. I was deployed, I cut in. That's why you picked then. Because I couldn't say no from 8,000 miles away. Mom stepped forward, tears streaming. We were going to pay you back. With interest. When the place took off. I laughed short, bitter. It didn't take off, did it? Yelp says it closed 6 weeks ago. Jax flinched. We hit some snags. Dad put a hand on my shoulder. I shrugged it off. I'm not here to yell, I said quietly. I'm here to tell you this. I'm hiring a lawyer tomorrow. A JAG buddy who does civilian cases now. We're going after every cent. The house. The money. The notary's license. And if the DA wants to press forgery charges, felony level 5 to 10 years, I won't stop them. Dad's face crumpled. Alex, we're family. You stopped being family the day you sold Nana's promise. I turned to leave. Jax called after me. You're really gonna sue your own blood? I stopped at the car door. Looked back. I'm suing thieves who used my service to this country as cover for a crime. Blood doesn't get a free pass for that. I got in, started the engine, and drove away. In the rearview, I saw Dad sink back into the recliner like the weight of it all finally crushed him. That night I checked into a cheap motel off I-40, showered until the water ran cold, and stared at the ceiling until dawn. Sleep didn't come. Instead, I started making calls. First to my old platoon sergeant, now a paralegal in Nashville. Then to a veterans legal aid group. Then to the county clerk's office to pull every public record on the sale. The war wasn't over. It had just moved to a different battlefield. The next morning I woke up to the motel's cheap coffee maker gurgling like it was dying. My head throbbed. Not from drinking, I hadn't touched a drop since the plane, but from the kind of exhaustion that seeps into your bones after too many sleepless nights strung together. I checked my phone. 3 voicemails from Mom, 2 from Jax, 1 from an unknown number with a Nashville area code. I ignored them all and dialed my old platoon sergeant, Mike Torres. He'd gotten out 2 years before me, passed the bar, and now worked plaintiff-side civil litigation in a small firm downtown. We'd stayed in touch, group chats, the occasional beer when I was stateside. Alex, brother, he answered on the first ring. Heard you were back. What's the emergency? You sound like shit. I told him everything. The email. The forged signature. The sale. The family excuses. I read him the key parts of the closing docs over the phone. He listened without interrupting, the way good NCOs do. When I finished, he let out a slow breath. Jesus. That's felony forgery in Tennessee. Class D at minimum. Up to 6 years if they prove intent. Plus civil fraud, breach of fiduciary duty if there was any trust language in the will. Unjust enrichment. The military angle? Huge. Courts hate this shit when it involves deployed service members. You got the original will. Yeah. Nana's attorney sent me a certified copy years ago. It's ironclad, specific devised to me. No residuary clause that lets family override. Good. First thing, don't talk to them anymore. No texts, no calls, nothing in writing that they can spin. Record every future interaction if you have to meet. Second, get me scans of everything you have, the email, the POA, the deed, wire confirm. Third, I'm filing an emergency motion to freeze any remaining funds in Jax's account today if there's anything left. We'll also pull the title history and notary records. Who's the notary? Guy named Harlan Whitaker. Jax said, friend of a friend. Mike snorted. I know that name. He's been popped before for sloppy notarizations, mostly real estate flips. If we can prove he knew or should have known it was bogus, his bond gets yanked and he's looking at license revocation. maybe even criminal referral. We talked logistics for another 10 minutes. He'd take the case on contingency, standard for vets in these situations, and loop in a veterans legal clinic for backup if we needed more firepower. By the time we hung up, I felt something shift inside me. Not hope exactly. More like purpose. The same focus I used to feel clearing a building in the dark. Slow, deliberate. No room for emotion. I spent the morning at a FedEx office scanning documents and emailing them to Mike. Then I drove to the county courthouse in the next town over. Quiet brick building, American flag snapping in the wind. I pulled the public records on the property sale myself. Everything matched the email. Recorded March 15, 2023. Grantor Alexander J. Rivera me. Grantee Willow Holdings LLC. Consideration: $452,000. Notarized by Whitaker on the same date. But the real kicker was in the notary journal entry, public record in Tennessee. Whitaker had logged it as an in-person acknowledgement, meaning he claimed to have seen me, in the flesh, sign and swear. Except I was halfway around the world, my CAT card swiping me in and out of secure facilities every day. I had deployment orders, flight manifests, even geotagged photos from my phone's metadata showing me in Kandahar on March 12th. Ironclad alibi. I copied everything, paid the fees, and left with a thick stack of printouts. On the way out, I passed the clerk's counter and asked casually about filing a notice of lease pendens on the property, just in case the new owners tried to flip it quick. She said yes, it would cloud the title immediately. I told her I'd be back with my attorney to file it properly. Back at the motel, I finally listened to the voicemails. Mom's first. Sobbing, begging me to come home, saying Dad hadn't slept, that he was having chest pains again. We love you, Alex. We made a mistake. Please. Jax's. Defensive, rambling. You're blowing this out of proportion. It was a family decision. The restaurant could have worked. You always act like you're better than us because you joined up. Come talk like a man. The unknown number was a woman's voice, professional, calm. Sergeant Rivera, this is Karen Ellis from the Tennessee Bar's Disciplinary Council. We received an anonymous tip regarding notary Harlan Whitaker and a potentially fraudulent transaction involving your name. If you'd like to provide a statement, please call back. I saved that one. Someone, maybe a realtor with a conscience, maybe one of the construction guys, had already started the dominoes falling. That afternoon I met Mike at his office. Small place above a coffee shop, walls lined with military plaques and photos of him in dress blues. He looked over the docs, whistled low. This is slam dunk fraud, he said. We're filing the complaint tomorrow. Fraud, forgery, conversion, breach of trust, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Punitive damages on the table because of the deployment timing. Courts get furious about that. We'll ask for the full sale price plus interest, legal fees, and whatever's left of the money. If they've spent it all, we go after their assets. What about criminal? I asked. Separate track. I'll send a demand letter with a criminal referral threat. DA might pick it up, especially with the military victim angle. But civil first, faster, and you get your money back. I nodded. And the house? Harder. Bona fide purchaser for value usually protects the buyer. But we can argue the forgery voids the whole chain if we prove actual knowledge or bad faith. Worst case, we get the cash equivalent. We spent the next hour drafting the initial pleading. My name as plaintiff. Defendants: Richard Rivera, Marlene Rivera, Jackson Rivera, Harlan Whitaker, and Willow Holdings LLC. When Mike printed the draft, I stared at the caption. Alexander J. Rivera v. Richard Rivera, et al. Family name against family name. It looked wrong on paper. Felt worse in my chest. I left the office around dusk. Drove back toward Willow Lake. Not to the house site, but to the public boat ramp a mile down the shore. Parked, walked to the water. Sat on the same kind of weathered bench Nana used to favor. The lake was glass smooth, reflecting the last pink in the sky. A fish jumped, rings spreading out. I thought about calling them again. Telling them to lawyer up. Warning them what was coming. Instead, I just sat there until full dark, listening to the crickets and the lap of water on the rocks. For the first time since coming home, I didn't feel hollow. I felt sharp. Ready. The next war had begun. The days after that boat ramp night blurred into a rhythm of paperwork, phone calls, and quiet fury. I stayed at the motel another week. Didn't want to give my parents the satisfaction of knowing exactly where I was sleeping. Mike moved fast. By Wednesday he'd filed the civil complaint in Davidson County Circuit Court. The lease pendants went on the property title the same afternoon, freezing any quick resale. The new owners LLC got served within 48 hours. Their attorney called Mike within the hour, sounding panicked. "We had no idea," the guy said. "We bought in good faith." Mike told him the truth. Forged signature, deployed service member, felony-level fraud. The conversation ended with them agreeing not to fight the cloud on title until the case resolved. Small win. I spent mornings at the Veterans Legal Clinic downtown. They hooked me up with a handwriting expert who'd testified in military courts-martial, retired CID agent named Dr. Ellis. She looked at the POA signature next to samples from my old leave forms, deployment affidavits, even my DD-214 signature block. "Not even close," she said after 10 minutes under magnification. The forger copied the general shape but missed the pressure variations, the natural tremor in your upstrokes. Amateur work. Probably traced from a photo or scanned document. She wrote a preliminary report for $800, worth every penny. Afternoons were for digging. Mike subpoenaed bank records early, ex parte because of the risk they'd move money. Jax's business account showed the $410,000 deposit on March 16, then a steady bleed. $120,000 to contractors for the restaurant build-out, $80,000 to marketing consultants, a shell company Jax owned, $50,000 wired to a credit card in Dad's name for family expenses. By the time the subpoena hit, less than $90,000 remained. Mike froze that instantly via court order. Jax tried to fight it, filed an emergency motion claiming legitimate business debts. Judge Harlan, same one who'd later preside over trial, denied it in 24 hours, calling the expenditures presumptively fraudulent transfers. The family didn't stay quiet. Mom started texting daily, long paragraphs about how Dad's blood pressure was through the roof, how he was seeing a cardiologist, how Jax was drinking again. "He's your brother, Alex. Blood is thicker." I didn't reply. Jax tried once, showed up at the motel around 10 p.m. One night banging on the door. I opened it chain-locked. "Talk to me," he said, eyes red. "You're ruining us." "You ruined yourselves," I told him. "Go home." He leaned in. "You think you're some hero because you wore a uniform? You left. We stayed. We dealt with Nana dying, with Dad's back, with everything while you played soldier. That house was rotting anyway. We did what we had to." I stared at him until he looked away. "Get off my property line before I call the cops." He left. But the next day a process server handed me papers. Jax filed a counterclaim for reimbursement of family support, totaling $180,000, claiming every dollar I'd sent home over the years was a loan he'd repaid by managing the Lakehouse. Laughable. Mike laughed when he saw it. "This is desperation. We'll crush it with your remittance records and deployment timelines." The pressure built. Mom called crying at 2 a.m. One night, I finally picked up. "Alex, your father had a spell last night. Chest pain so bad we went to the ER. They're saying stress-induced angina. He keeps asking for you." I closed my eyes. "I'm sorry he's hurting, Mom. But he brought this on himself. He's your dad. He forged my name while I was getting shot at. That's not dad behavior." Silence. Then soft. "We just wanted to help Jax. He's lost. The restaurant was his dream. Dreams don't justify theft." She started sobbing again. "Please don't do this. Come home. We'll sell what we have, pay you back. Just don't take us to court." I thought about Nana's face, the way she'd squeeze my hand and say, "Stand tall, baby. Even when it hurts." I thought about the guys I lost in Kandahar, Sanders killed by an IED, Ramirez sniper round to the neck. They didn't get to come home and have their legacies sold out from under them. "I'm not stopping the lawsuit," I said. "But if Dad needs to talk to me, tell him to call. Sober. Honest. No excuses." She whispered thank you and hung up. Dad didn't call. Instead, the discovery phase kicked into gear. Mike deposed Whitaker first, the notary. Guy showed up sweating in a cheap suit, lawyer beside him looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Under oath, Whitaker admitted he'd never met me in person. Jax brought the PO already signed, said I was out of town but authorized it over the phone. Whitaker notarized it anyway because it was a favor. Mike hammered him. You logged it as in-person acknowledgement. That's perjury on the journal entry. Whitaker folded fast, agreed to cooperate, surrender his journal, even testify against the family if it meant saving his license. Mike sent the transcript straight to the Tennessee Secretary of State's Notary Division. Revocation proceedings started within days. Next came the family depots. Mom first. She cried through most of it, admitted knowing about the forgery but thought it was just paperwork. Dad's turn was worse. He sat there stone-faced at first, then cracked when Mike showed him the bank wires. I did it for Jax, he said, voice breaking. He's my boy. Alex is strong, he'd bounce back. Mike asked, did you consider what it would do to Alex when he came home to nothing? Dad looked down. I didn't think that far. Jax was last. Defiant. Claimed the money was family investment. When Mike played the audio from my secret recording of the first confrontation, the one where Jax said, you were never around anyway, Jax went pale. That was out of context. Mike didn't let up. By the end, Jax was mumbling about making it right. The pieces were falling together. Evidence stacked. Forgery proof. Alibi docs from the Army. Expert report. Bank trails, admissions under oath. Mike estimated our damages at $650,000. Sale price plus interest, emotional distress, punitives. He sent a settlement demand. $500,000 cash. Family pays all fees, public apology letter, and Jack signs a confession for the DA if they pursued criminal charges. They countered with $120,000, all they had left, and a promise to make payments. Mike laughed. See you in court. Trial was set for 3 months out. Judge Harlan again. Word spread in vet circles, guys from my old unit started messaging support. One platoon buddy even offered to fly in and testify about my deployment timeline. The case was becoming bigger than just me. Every night I still drove to the boat ramp, sat on the bench, watched the water. The anger hadn't faded, but it had sharpened into something useful. Focus. Resolve. I wasn't just fighting for a house anymore. I was fighting for what Nana believed I could be. The 3 months leading to trial felt like a slow-motion patrol through enemy territory. Every step deliberate, every shadow a potential ambush. Mike kept the pressure on. We filed motions to compel more documents, Jax's full business ledgers, Dad's medical records, to counter any sympathy play about his health issues, even text threads between the three of them planning the sale. One exchange from February 2023 hit hard. Mom texting Dad. Alex won't know until he's back. By then the restaurant will be open and we can pay him back. Dad replied, he's tough. He'll get over it. Jax added a laughing emoji. Mike used that string to argue premeditation and lack of remorse. The judge read it during a pre-trial hearing and her face tightened. This isn't family help, she said from the bench. This is exploitation. We also got the Army to certify my deployment records. Official letter from the unit S1 confirming I was in theater March 1st through April 30th. No authorized leave stateside. No power to execute legal documents remotely without special authorization, which I never requested. Mike attached it to our summary judgment motion on the forgery count. The defendant's response was weak. Affidavits from each claiming good faith belief that I'd approve retroactively. Judge Harlan denied their cross motion and granted us partial summary judgment. Forgery established as fact. The only issues left for trial: amount of damages, punitive award, and whether the sale could be unwound against the innocent buyer. The family tried one last Hail Mary. A week before trial, their new lawyer, a slick guy from Memphis, sent a settlement offer. $300,000 lump sum. Jack signs over his car and tools. Parents mortgage their house for the rest in payments over 5 years, and we drop all criminal referrals. Mike showed me the letter over coffee. They're scared, he said. Dad's cardiologist wrote a note saying stress could trigger another episode. They're playing the health card hard. I stared at the numbers. $300,000 was more than Jax had left, but less than half what we'd asked for. Tell them no, I said. Full amount or court? Mike nodded. Thought you'd say that. The night before trial I couldn't sleep. I drove to the boat ramp again, same bench, same dark water. Wind had picked up. Small waves slapped the rocks. I thought about calling them one last time, maybe give them an out, tell them to plead guilty to the civil counts and avoid the stand. But every time I pulled out my phone, I saw Nana's face instead. She'd never backed down from what was right, even when it cost her. I put the phone away. Trial morning arrived cold and gray. I put on my class A uniform, ribbons straight, shoes spit-shined, and drove to the courthouse with Mike. The hallway outside the courtroom was packed. Reporters from 2 local stations, someone had leaked the military angle, a couple of vet advocates from the clinic, even my old platoon buddy Ramirez's widow who'd driven 3 hours to sit in support. She hugged me without a word. That meant more than any testimony. Inside, the gallery was half full. Mom sat in the front row with Dad, who looked thinner, paler, oxygen tube in his nose now. Jax was behind them, suit too big, eyes darting. Their lawyer avoided looking at me. Judge Harlan called order. Opening statements first. Mike went simple and brutal. This is not a family dispute. This is fraud committed against a deployed service member who trusted his blood to safeguard his inheritance. They forged his name, sold his grandmother's legacy, and spent the money on a failed business venture. Today we ask the court to make them accountable, not just for the dollars but for the betrayal. Their lawyer tried sympathy. The Riveras acted out of desperation to save a son's dream. No malice. No intent to permanently deprive. Sergeant Rivera is a hero. His family supported him through every deployment. This is a misunderstanding that spiraled. I testified first. Mike had me walk the jury through the will, the deployment timeline, the homecoming shock. I kept it factual, voice steady, but when I got to Nana's promise, "This is yours, Alex. The water will always listen," my throat tightened. I paused, looked at the jury. I fought for this country so families like mine could have something stable. They took that from me while I was gone. Cross-examination was short. Their lawyer asked if I'd ever discussed selling the house. No, if I'd loaned money expecting repayment. Gifts, not loans. If I hated my family. I loved them. Until they stole from me. Dad took the stand next. He started strong, talked about hard times, Jax's potential, how they meant no harm. Mike cross-examined gently at first, then sharpened. You knew your son was deployed when you arranged the sale? Yes. You knew the power of attorney was signed without him present? A long pause. We believed he'd want to help. You logged it as in person with the notary. That was a lie. Dad's hand shook. I didn't sign the journal. Harlan did. But you handed him the document knowing it was false? Dad looked at me, really looked, for the first time in months. Tears welled. I thought he'd forgive us. Mike stepped closer. Did you consider what it would do to him, coming home after losing brothers in combat, only to find his last piece of home gone? Dad's breathing hitched. I didn't. I couldn't think that far. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Rivera, you exploited your son's service to this nation for personal gain. You forged documents while he defended the Constitution that protects property rights. Do you understand the gravity? Dad nodded, then clutched his chest. His face went ashen. He gasped once, twice. The bailiff moved fast, but Dad slumped sideways in the chair, eyes wide, hand still gripping his shirt. Mom screamed. Jax jumped up. Paramedics rushed in from the hall. Someone had called ahead, probably sensing it coming. The courtroom froze. Judge Harlan banged the gavel once. Recess. Get him help. They wheeled Dad out on a stretcher. Oxygen mask. Monitors beeping. Mom followed sobbing. Jack stood there stunned, then looked at me like I pulled the trigger. I didn't feel triumph. Just a deep, hollow quiet. The judge reconvened after 20 minutes. We'll resume tomorrow or when Mr. Rivera is able. But let me be clear. This court will not tolerate games. The evidence of fraud is overwhelming. Defendants, consider your positions carefully. That night the local news ran the story. Father collapses in court during son's fraud trial. Military vet alleges family forgery during deployment. Clips leaked online. Comments exploded. Vets sharing similar stories. Others calling it karma. I sat in my motel room, uniform hung up, staring at the wall. The collapse wasn't justice. It was consequence. And we weren't done yet. The courtroom reconvened the next morning at 9 o'clock sharp. Dad was back, pale, oxygen tank on a small cart beside the witness stand, but sitting upright in a new chair the bailiff had brought in. The judge had ordered a doctor on standby in the hallway just in case. No drama this time. Everyone knew the stakes had shifted. The jury looked different too. More somber, eyes flicking between me in uniform and Dad hooked to his tank like he was already paying a price. Judge Harlan addressed the room before we resumed. Mr. Rivera, if at any point you feel unable to continue, signal your counsel or the bailiff. We will accommodate. But this trial proceeds. The court will not be derailed by medical theatrics. She looked straight at their lawyer. And counsel, I expect no further delays or sympathy plays. Understood. Their lawyer nodded quickly. Yes, Your Honor. Dad finished his testimony under redirect, mostly mumbling apologies, saying he never meant to hurt me, that he was just trying to keep the family together. It rang hollow. When Mike got a brief recross, he asked one final question. Mr. Rivera, looking back now, knowing what you know, would you do it again? Forge your deployed son's signature to fund your other son's business. Dad stared at the floor. His voice came out small. No, I wouldn't. Mike sat down. No more questions. Mom went next. She barely made it through without breaking. Admitted everything. Knowing Jax brought the pre-signed PO, urging Dad to go along because Alex would understand later, even helping find the notary through a church friend. On cross, she cried when Mike showed her the text chain where she wrote, "He's tough. He'll get over it." She whispered, "I was wrong. I'm so sorry, Alex." Jax was the last family witness. He tried to play tough, said the restaurant was a calculated risk, that the money was an advance on family equity. Mike dismantled him in under 20 minutes. Played the recorded confrontation audio again for the jury. Showed bank statements where Jax spent $40,000 on a luxury watch 2 weeks after the wire hit. Asked point blank, "Did you ever intend to repay your brother the full amount?" Jax hesitated. Eventually. Eventually isn't repayment, Mike said. It's theft with a timeline. Jax looked at me, then really looked, and for a split second I saw the kid he used to be, the one who'd share his comic books when we were little. Then it was gone. He shrugged. You always had everything, Alex. The house. Nana's love. The army. I just wanted one thing to work. The jury didn't react outwardly, but I felt the shift. Sympathy evaporated. Closing arguments came fast. Mike hammered the themes. Betrayal of trust, abuse of a service member's absence, destruction of a sacred inheritance. He asked for the full $452,000 sale price, plus 10% statutory interest from the sale date, another $120,000 plus, $200,000 emotional distress, and $500,000 in punitives to send a message. This wasn't a mistake, he said. It was calculated. It was cruel. It was criminal. Their lawyer went soft, pleaded for leniency, highlighted Dad's health, Jax's youthful desperation, Mom's remorse. Asked the jury to award only what remained in accounts, about $85,000 now, and let the family heal. Judge Harlan gave the jury instructions. Clear and cold. Fraud proven. Damages to be calculated. Punitive if malice shown. They filed out at 2:17 p.m. Deliberations lasted 4 hours. I waited in the hallway with Mike, drinking bad courthouse coffee. A few vets from the clinic sat nearby, offering quiet nods. One said, "We've got your six, brother." Kept me steady. At 6:32 the jury returned. We filed back in. Dad was still there, looking smaller than ever. The foreperson stood. A middle-aged woman in a cardigan. On the count of fraudulent conveyance and forgery, we fined for the plaintiff. She read the damages. $452,000 compensatory, sale price, $136,000 prejudgment interest, $150,000 emotional distress, $400,000 punitive. Total, $1,138,000. Joint and several liability against all defendants, including the notary. The sale to the LLC couldn't be unwound, but the court ordered the buyer compensated from the defendants' pockets if they pursued their own claim. The courtroom was dead silent for a beat. Then Mom let out a sob. Dad just closed his eyes. Judge Harlan spoke before adjourning. This verdict reflects the seriousness of exploiting a deployed service member. The court refers the matter to the Davidson County DA for criminal review. Forgery, fraud, possible conspiracy. Mr. Whitaker, your notary commission is suspended pending investigation. Defendants, you have 30 days to satisfy the judgment or face asset seizure and wage garnishment. She banged the gavel. Court is adjourned. I stood as people filed out. Mom tried to approach me, tears streaming, but Jax pulled her back. Dad didn't look up. He just sat there, oxygen hissing softly, while the bailiff helped him to his feet. Outside, the news cameras were waiting. Mike shielded me. No comment today. We walked to his car. In the parking lot, he clapped my shoulder. You did it, Alex. Nana would be proud. I nodded. Didn't trust my voice yet. That night I drove to the boat ramp one last time. The water was calm under a half moon. I sat on the bench, pulled out my phone, and for the first time in months, I let myself feel it all, the anger, the grief, the strange emptiness of winning. The money would come. Maybe not all at once. Dad's house would likely be sold, Jax's assets liquidated, but it would come. I wouldn't buy back the old Lakehouse. Too many ghosts. Instead, I'd find a new piece of shore somewhere quiet, put Nana's brass plaque on the door, and rebuild something that was mine. Not theirs. Not anyone's but mine. I stood up, walked to the water's edge, and whispered to the lake like Nana used to. It's okay now. I kept it safe the best I could. A breeze came up, rippling the surface. For a second it felt like an answer. I got in the car and drove away. The rearview showed the water fading behind me. Still there, still listening. But I wasn't looking back anymore. The judgment hit like a shockwave through the family. Within days, the collection process started. Mike filed for a writ of execution, court order to seize assets. Dad and Mom's house on Maple Street went on the market first. It appraised at $220,000, mortgage still $90,000 outstanding. The realtor's sign went up on a rainy Tuesday. Neighbors whispered. Mom texted me once. We're moving to an apartment. Your dad can't climb stairs anymore. I didn't reply. Jax fared worse. His restaurant space, leased not owned, got hit with back rent claims from the landlord who'd been waiting for payment. The equipment, ovens, fridges, that fancy espresso machine he bragged about, was auctioned off for pennies on the dollar. His car, a leased BMW he'd upgraded right after the wire hit, was repossessed. He filed personal bankruptcy 2 weeks later, Chapter 7. The trustee listed the Lakehouse proceeds as fraudulent conveyance. Most of his discharge got denied on those counts. He ended up couchsurfing with old high school friends, posting vague Facebook updates about starting over and family drama. No one bought it. The notary, Harlan Whitaker, lost his commission permanently. The Secretary of State's hearing was quick. Transcript from his depot sealed the deal. He faced misdemeanor charges for false acknowledgement but took a plea, probation, $5,000 fine, community service. Small price compared to what he enabled. The DA did pick up the criminal referral. Forgery and theft by deception, Class D and E felonies. Dad and Jax got indicted 6 months later. Mom got immunity for cooperation. She testified in the grand jury, crying through most of it. Dad pled to a lesser charge. Attempted fraud, probation, and restitution. Jax went to trial, lost. Sentenced to 18 months in county. Suspended after 6 with good behavior. He served it quietly, no fanfare. I didn't attend any of the criminal hearings. Mike kept me updated. You got your civil win, he said. Let the state handle the rest. The money came in pieces. First $85,000 from frozen accounts. Then $140,000 from the house sale after closing costs. Jax's bankruptcy trustee clawed back another $60,000 from hidden assets. That watch he'd bought. Some crypto he'd stashed. The notary paid $25,000 from his bond. Punitive portion got negotiated down in settlement talks to avoid endless appeals. Still landed at $320,000 total. By the end of the first year, I had just over $700,000 after fees and taxes. Not the full $1.1 million verdict, but enough. More than enough. I didn't blow it. First thing, therapy. Real therapy, not the VA quick fix sessions. a vet-specialized counselor in Nashville who understood the double wound combat trauma layered on family betrayal. We talked about the anger, the guilt for not forgiving, the nightmares where Nana's house burned while I watched from a Humvee turret. It helped. Not fixed but manageable. 6 months after the verdict, I bought land. Not on Willow Lake, too many memories. A quieter spot 20 miles north on Center Hill Lake. 5 acres, wooded slope down to the water, existing small cabin with a metal roof and a porch facing east for sunrise. Nothing fancy. 1,200 square feet, 1 bedroom with stove, solar panels I installed myself. Cost $380,000 cash. I kept the rest in index funds and a high-yield savings for emergencies. I moved in on a crisp October day. Unpacked boxes of Nana's things I'd stored. Her old fishing rods, the quilt she made from army surplus fabric, that brass plaque. Rivera Havens, 1987. I screwed it above the new door myself. Stood back and read it aloud. Felt right. Friends from the unit came up that weekend. We grilled steaks on the dock, drank beer, told stories. One guy, Torres, my old PSG, brought his wife and kids. The little boy asked why the lake was so quiet. I told him. Because it listens when you need it to. I started volunteering with the local VFW post. Helped other vets with paperwork. Shared what I'd learned about fraud protections under SCRA and USERRA. Spoke at a few events, nothing dramatic, just facts. Trust is earned even from family. Protect what's yours. Got thank yous and emails, handshakes. One guy who said my story kept him from signing over his own property to his brother. Small ripples. Family contact faded to nothing. Mom sent a Christmas card the first year, generic snow scene, handwritten note. We miss you. Hope you're well. No return address. I kept it in a drawer, unread after the first line. Jax tried once. DM on Instagram from a new account. Can we talk? I get it now. I blocked it. Dad passed 2 years later. Heart attack, quiet in his sleep. Mom called to tell me. I listened, said I was sorry for her loss, hung up. Didn't go to the funeral. Some bridges burn clean. Nana's ashes. I'd kept them in the urn all those years. Went into the lake on the 3rd spring after I moved in. Dawn. No ceremony. Just me, the urn, and the water. I scattered them slow, watched the gray dust swirl and sink. Said the things I never got to say when she was alive. Thank you for seeing me, for believing I could stand tall, for giving me a place that reminded me who I was. The wind came up gentle like it always did when I needed it. I still sit on the porch most evenings. Coffee in hand, lake flat and silver. Sometimes I think about the old house, the willow stump, the concrete slab where new walls are probably standing now. Doesn't hurt like it used to. It's just a chapter closed. The water still listens. But now it hears my voice too. Not broken, not angry anymore. Just steady. I rebuilt. Not the house. Me.